There we go. That's lined up better. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful, wonderful day. It is time for another fabulous Bible study with Dinks' traveling companion. We are here to pick a new book of the Bible to study. It's going to be fun. Last time we went over 1 John. Well, hello to you too. From Manila. Wow. That's quite a ways away. Oh, now I gotta know. So just everybody knows here. Let's take a look at this. Hold on. Let's see here. Let's find out where Manila is. It's Africa, right? Let's find out. Ooh, look at this. From Manila. No, not Africa. I'm sorry. That's the Philippines. Of course I knew that, right? Wow. Yeah, I've got quite a bit of followers in the Philippines, which I appreciate. I also have quite a bit of followers in South Africa. And a handful of followers in Canada. But of course, most of my followers are right here in the United States. But wow, all the way over there. I mean, it's got to be nighttime, isn't it? Well, welcome anyway. I'm glad you're here. All right. Well, so yeah, today we are going to Cebu. Oh, now we're going to do some world searching, are we? All right, let's find out where Cebu is. I can do that. Let's find Cebu. Cebu. Where's that at? Ooh. Cebu City. On the island of Cebu. Also in the Philippines. Oh, you're a long way from the other friend who said hello from Manila. So that's a couple boat rides for you there. And Malaysia? Oh, well, that's awesome. I'm so glad you guys are on. I really am. But let's, instead of where in the world, let's just go ahead and get started. So I am letting you guys choose which book of the Bible we're going to start studying. So we just finished 1 John, so I'm going to give you the choice of either we can get into Mark or we can get into Job. I doubt we'll get either one finished today, but we can get started on one. So what is your vote? Do you want to start with Mark or with Job? New Guinea and Costa Rica, awesome. Got one vote for Mark so far. Got a Job vote, all right. All right. Lots of Job votes. Okay. And Job is one of those books of the Bible where it's very easy to understand what's going on, but not the purpose of it. And Mark it's just pretty easy all around. Wow. It looks like Job is just barely beating out Mark. All right, and I kind of figured that's where we'd go, so that's fine, no problem. We will go ahead and get rid of that. We will go ahead and focus on Job. All right. So, as always, we're going to start with the same question. According to the book of Ruth, if I say to you, the Lord bless you, excuse me. If I say the Lord bless you, what is your response according to the book of Ruth? What was their standard response? Someone says, the Lord bless you, and you would say what? Let's see who gets this. Who's going to get it first? The Lord bless you, and who's got it? And I don't always know if you guys answer right away because the comments are delayed for me. Unfortunately, it's one of the things that TikTok does better. The Lord be with you. I love Lucy 45. Got it first. Good job. That's absolutely correct. That is just a greeting that they had during the time of the judges, just before King Saul. If someone says, "The Lord be with you," you say, "The Lord bless you," or vice versa. Good job. All right. So you can pick which color you would like to start with today. I have green, blue, and orange. Which one do you want to start with?
That looks like a red.
It's orangish.
It looks orange on here, but it looks red in real life. When did you get that?
Jeremiah made that for me.
Oh.
So I've got mostly blue votes, and that's kind of typical. Yep. All right. Looks like blue's gonna win that one. Nobody cares about green. Got it. All right.
Oh, are you on YouTube on this one?
Yeah. Usually, I only get a handful of people on YouTube.
There's literally no one in there.
I know. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then, shall we? So there's some things you need to know about the book of Job. Okay, so first off, Job is it's kind of one of those mysterious books of the Bible. It's in the Old Testament, which means it existed before Christ came. It has always been considered scripture, although the author of it has always been debated. We don't know who wrote the book of Job. Some people believe that Moses wrote it down based off of a historical narrative that passed down. And there are some other theories out there, but the truth is we don't know. It's more mysterious to us than even the book of Hebrews, because the book of Hebrews we know was at least written by someone who knew Paul, if it wasn't Paul himself. But Job is just mysterious because Job actually takes place before Abraham. That's right, Job's story. That people wonder, okay, well, what about people who never knew about God? Well, how can they be saved? Well, keep in mind that God called Abraham to be saved out of the land of the Chaldeans, and he comes across a guy named Melchizedek, who is the high priest of the Most High God. So there were already people who still worship the true God. We just don't have a story about them. So same thing with Job. We happen to have his story, but we just don't know who wrote it down or who passed it along. Now, that being said, there are some people who do believe that Job is an allegory. So if you don't know what an allegory is, it basically, some people believe it was just written to help people understand God. It's kind of like a fairy tale that has a moral to the story. That's kind of what some people believe. The problem with that idea is that Job is actually mentioned elsewhere in the Bible. Let me show you this. I think you'll find this fascinating. In Ezekiel, yep, there it is. 14:14. All right, let's go there. So when we were studying through Ezekiel, this was fascinating to point out. And so God is talking here, and he says, even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, in the place that's being punished, Jerusalem, they would deliver but their own lives by their righteousness, declares the Lord Elohim. So what God's saying here is that these three are people he considers righteous by their faith. So Noah, as in Noah's Ark, Noah and the flood, yep. Daniel, who was still alive when this was written. Can you imagine that? These two guys are dead, and God's talking favorably about them, but Daniel was still alive, and God mentions him. That's quite an honor right there. But then you have Job. So anybody that says Noah's Ark or Job or just allegories, well, God did not treat them like an allegory. There was no reason for God to bring them up and list them with a person who was currently alive. So this gives us at least an implication that Job was very likely a real person, and this is a very real story. Okay? All right, so let's go on to this itself. And I need to remind myself how many chapters are in Job. Let's see here. This will tell me. how do I do this one? I know there are not 24 chapters. Oh, there are 24. Come on, give me an error. There we go. All right, Job has 42 chapters. All right. So, again, we're not going to get through this today. And the majority of Job is actually not narrative. It starts off with a few chapters of narrative, but once you get past the point, then it's a whole lot of talking. You have a lot of talking by his friends who accuse him, a lot of introspection by Job, and it ends up with God talking to Job. So the narrative portion is going to be the easy part to get through, but getting through the rest, that's going to take a couple days. All right. Hey, Joanna. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. Okay, so Uz is actually, let's find out. I think I know exactly what this is talking about. Let's verify. All right. Land of Uz. Looks like there's debate on where the land of Uz was. Oh, here's a good one. Let's see here. Yeah. Wow, this is hotly. This is looks like there's conjecture on where Uz was. I see a lot of question marks on it, But hold on, let me see if I can move this up here. There we go. Okay, so the land of Uz is a greater area here. Now, don't get it confused with which is U-R. That is where Abraham came from, but the land of Uz, U-Z, looks like most agree is somewhere in Saudi Arabia. This looks like some people have it placed over here under Edom, just under the Sinai Peninsula. So it looks like some people have it out here, which would be modern day Jordan, and I think that's Iran. So yeah, I mean, just kind of this is the broad region of it. Now, the land of Uz is next to the land of Babylon, or the land of the Chaldeans. So U-R, where Abraham came from, is over here in the Mesopotamian area. Okay, it's a very rich and fertile land, but the land of Uz is going to be mostly desert region. Okay, so basically, if you're from the United States, he lived in Arizona. Think of it that way. Okay. So there was a man who lived in the desert of Uz, all right, whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright. Now, when it says he was blameless and upright, this is talking about his status, not that he was a perfect life. Okay. When anyone in the Old Testament is called blameless or upright, it's not saying that they are perfect. It's not saying they never sinned. That is not possible, despite what you might have heard some people say. It is not possible to go without sinning. No, what it's saying is he was viewed as righteous, who was made righteous by God because he had faith in God. And that's exactly what they're going to explain in this whole first paragraph. They're explaining how he was blameless and upright, how God would view him that way. Okay, one who feared God and turned away from evil. Okay, so he absolutely was repentant. This is exactly what repentance means: to put God first and turn away from everything else. There were born of him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, so that's 1,000 individual oxes, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants. So he was very wealthy. So that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. Okay, so now when it says of the East, then by reference, whoever is writing this is thinking about where the land of Uz is compared to where they are writing it from. That's why some people believe that Moses wrote this down, because he is from Egypt. But then this could have been written down by someone in the land of Israel, and Uz is still to the east of them. So there's still going to be much conjecture, but whoever wrote it down is west of the land of Uz. his sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day. And they would send and invite their 3 sisters and eat and drink with them. Okay. So his children were all about the party life. His 7 sons and his 3 daughters, they would always have a party every day. Hey, whose house are we going to party at today? And then all of them would get together and party. And when the days of Israel when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus Job did continually. So he cared so much about his kids. He knew that they were doing some wicked things, so he would burn sacrifices on their behalf, hoping that God would overlook their sin. Now, this is descriptive, not prescriptive, okay? There's 2 different kinds of passages. Descriptive means it's just simply describing what happened. It is accurately describing what Job did, but it is not prescriptive. It's not saying that you should do this. It's not saying this is how things should be done. It's simply recording it. It's showing us Job's heart. His heart for the Lord, his faith in the Lord, and his heart for his kids. Okay, so just building up what kind of man he is. Now, suddenly, we go to a scene up in heaven where something's going on, and there's a similar scene to this when Isaiah talks about God, up in heaven, and there's a God wants to accomplish something, and there's demons who come before him, and he's saying, I need someone to deceive the king. And so the demon says, I'll put a lying spirit in the mouth of their prophets. And then God says, you'll succeed, go ahead. What's interesting here is this is right in line with this, where Satan comes before him, and this should give us a lot of comfort right here. Not the fact that God allowed him to do it. I mean, that's kind of scary, sure. But the fact that Satan can't do anything that God doesn't allow. That should give us comfort. Remember Romans 8:28. All things work to the good of those who are called, those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So if you love God, if you're called according to his purpose, everything works to your good, even if in the short run it's not pleasant, okay? So now similarly here, it does say Satan. Now Satan literally means the adversary, or the one who comes up against you, the enemy. So there are some who say this might not be Satan himself. This might not be Lucifer, the devil, the head bad guy, that we all think of. Some believe this could just be a strong demon. Sure, you could say that, but there's no reason for us to assume that without any evidence. The evidence is this is an evil adversary that has to come and give an account before God, okay? So, now there was a day when the sons of God, and let's stop there. Sons of God is an early euphemism for angels, angelic beings, beings that are born of the Spirit, created by God, okay? So, sons of God, this is very similar to what we see in Genesis chapter 6, where it says the sons of God cohabitated with the daughters of men. They found them attractive and started breeding the Nephilim, okay? Same phrase here. This is a term for angels. And this does give us some credibility to the idea that Moses might have written this down, because he used the same term here. But again, it could have just been a popular phrase to refer to angels at that time. So without being clear, it's just evidence. But the angels, both upright and fallen, came to present themselves before the I Am. That's what L-O-R-D means. This is representative of Yahweh, okay? Another evidence that Moses might have written this, okay? And Satan, the accuser, also came among them, okay? So this accuser angel comes up with all the other angels to present themselves to Yahweh. The I Am said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the I Am and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it." Okay, so this goes right in line with what Peter tells us. In 1 Peter, he says that Satan prowls around looking for whom he may devour. Satan is not in hell torturing people. He's not doing God's work in hell. Satan has no reason to go to hell. That is his eternal destination. The lake of fire is where he will end up. He doesn't want to be there. He's not going there yet. So, no, he is actually on the earth, and he's been on the earth. Jesus said, I beheld Satan, and he fell from heaven like lightning. He's here on the earth doing as much damage as he can until his time is out. So, that's exactly what this is saying here. And the I Am said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil? Now, you might be wondering, why? Wait a second. Why is God pointing out Job to the devil? Why does God want the devil to look at Job? Well, first off, keep in mind what I just said, that this refers, that Peter gives us some insight on. Satan is literally looking for people to devour. And so God is actually saying, well, while you're looking for people to devour, have you considered Job? Have you tried Job? Have you tried to devour him? And still, you might ask, why would God do that? But that's because God is making a point for all of us who would read this book later. That's the point. You are the reason why he did this. He wants you to come away knowing something. And because we're not going to get to the end of the book today, I will tell you what that something is now. That's something he wants you to know, is that God is more powerful than the devil. The devil can do nothing to you that God doesn't allow. That God, when he seals you, you are solidly sealed. You can't be pulled away. You can't be destroyed by the devil. Devil can't do anything to you. You are in God's protection, and if God allows things to happen to you, it will be for your good, whether by restoration or by testimony. One of the two, it will be for your good, okay? So he's showing you that the devil cannot win. He wants you to know that. Then Satan answered the I Am and said, does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? Now, so this is where we get the idea of a hedge of protection. If you've ever heard anybody pray, Lord, please put a hedge of protection around them, that's where this comes from, okay? And it's a funny thought, you know. Tim Hawkins has a good bit on this, where he talks about, you know, the devil's secret, weakness is topiary. Bushes. Oh no, a bush. I can't get past this bush. Now, of course, it's completely symbolic, okay? And so there's nothing wrong with understanding that they're talking in symbolic language. But the other thing, too, you need to remember is that God is referring to... no, that's not what I want to say. The thing that we need to remember is that the Hebrew language is concrete, okay? So they don't have any metaphorical terms. The Bible, like when it says that God is patient towards people, it literally, if you read the language in its literal translation, it says God has a long nose. And what that means is you start knowing you're getting close to God before you get to his face. It takes a while to get to his face, but you know he's getting closer. That's the idea. Think of Pinocchio after he told a bunch of lies, walking closer and closer to you. And so since they have a concrete language saying that God has protected Job, insulated Job, the words that were used here was a hedge, like bushes around a house might keep wild animals out, because they have a barrier. That's kind of the idea. You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. So Satan's pretty confident here, saying, hey, you blessed him, you protected him, of course he's faithful to you. But if you let something bad happen to him, he'll just curse you like everybody else. That's what he's saying. And the I Am said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your hand. Only against him do not stretch out your hand. So he's saying, you can do whatever you want to his stuff. Just don't touch him. Okay? So Satan went out from the presence of the I am. All right, Satan is going to try to prove God wrong. Here we go. I wonder who wins. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding beside them, and the Sabines fell upon them and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So first messenger basically says some raiders came and killed a bunch of your oxen, and so that's the first loss. You've lost your source of income, Job. You're not going to be able to plow fields here, right? While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. All right, so now he's lost his sheep and the servants with them. Now, some people get confused on this fire from God. This is not Elohim right here. This is not the God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob. This is the word God in general. So a lowercase g would be just as applicable here for translation. Anybody from the ground is going to look up and see fire come down. They're like, oh, God sent fire. That's this person's assumption. So this is accurate as to what the person said, not what actually happened. We know from above this is not God doing it. This is Satan doing it. So Satan allowed it, God allowed it, but it's not his fire coming down. This is Satan. Okay. Now, what's interesting is this will happen again. If you read the book of Revelation, the false prophet will have the ability to call fire down from heaven, and it's his way of declaring that the beast, the Antichrist, is God. It's one of his signs that he will show, saying, hey, you need to worship the Antichrist. That's what the false prophet's going to do. So this is just a precursor to that. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the Chaldeans, okay, that's the people from the raiders from Babylon, formed 3 groups and made a raid on the camels and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. All right, so he's lost all of his income now. There's no camels, there's no sheep, there's no oxen, they're all dead. Okay. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and behold, a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you. All right, so all 10 of his kids, his 3 daughters, his 7 sons, they're all dead. And so now he not only does he have no income, now he has no lineage. He suddenly lost all of his legacy. Completely gone. Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped. Okay, so what's this about? When anybody in ancient times would tear their robes, this was just a sign to everyone around them that they were mourning. Something's going on here. For those of you in the United States, you may know this, you may not, but you're actually allowed to fly your flag upside down. If you're in a time of distress, if you feel like you're in some kind of distress and you need a symbol to others to call for help, you can fly the American flag upside down. That's actually an ordinance. And so that's kind of the similar idea here. Someone walking along seeing Job, if they cared about him, they could stop and try to comfort him, or if they didn't know him, they could give him distance. That's the idea. I am mourning something, making it clear to everyone. But what's interesting is his response. He doesn't immediately bring accusation. He worships God in response. So even though he is mourning, he's still worshiping. Okay? And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The I am gave, and the I am has taken away. Yes, that's where this comes from. The Lord gives, and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the I am. All right, so remember, when you quote this, you need to quote the second half. That's the point of saying this. Don't just say the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. No, you need to finish that phrase. The Lord gives, then the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Our God is a good God even when he takes things away. We don't want to treat this as stoicism, like, oh, it just is what it is. No, it is what it is, and my God is still good. That's the point you need to remember. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. There you go. Proving Satan wrong so far. Any questions on chapter 1? Chapter 1 questions. Not to distract, I like how some of your name's funny. But any questions on chapter 1? All right. Now, for those of you who don't know, I do also stream this live on YouTube simultaneously. So if something happens with Instagram, you can always go over to YouTube. I'm starting to do that now. I don't have anybody on there at the moment. Last time I had like 4 people. But at any rate, that's another option for you. Is Job's statement correct? Well, he made a few statements, but he says, naked I came into my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Yeah, there's nothing there that is incorrect. This actually establishes what Job said is correct. Because it says, in all this, Job did not sin. If he said something incorrect about God, then it would be sinful. So no, he did not sin or charge God with wrong. So when he says, naked I shall return, he's basically saying, my soul, when it goes, isn't taking any clothes with me. My finery, my things, nothing. I came into this world with nothing. I'm going to leave with nothing. Again, remember, this is a concrete language. They don't have a metaphorical tongue. So here they did translate it more literally. But if we're going to put it into our vernacular, it would be, I came into this world with nothing, and I will leave with nothing. The Lord gives everything. The Lord takes away everything. But blessed be the name of the Lord. So yes, he did speak accurately. God isn't the one who took away. Well, I understand why you would say that, but here's the thing. Who allowed Satan to do it? Who allowed Satan to do it? God did. We cannot, I'm not saying God is evil. God is not evil. There is no evilness in him, but we cannot say that God is overpowered by Satan. That's worse. We have to understand that God has a purpose beyond what our comprehension is. So even if you go through something bad, it is still for your good. Romans 8:28, all things work to the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. But even Lamentations 3:38 says, is it not from the mouth of the Most High that both woe and well-being proceed? So yes, it is still accurate for him to say that God takes things away because God allowed it. God allowed it for his good purpose. Satan wanted it for an evil purpose. It does not change the fact that both are true. It's the same thing as Joseph being sold into slavery. What he tells his brothers is, what you meant for evil, God used for good, and that's exactly what's going on here. Now, you weren't saying God was evil, just that it seemed to Job that it was God. Right, and I get that, but we just have to understand God's sovereignty. So, and I'm not saying you were saying that. When I bring up things like that, when I say, this doesn't mean God's evil, and I say things like that, I'm not accusing you of saying those things. I'm bringing up those points to make sure nobody else is thinking that, because for every person who makes a comment, there are 3 people who decided not to comment. So I'm just trying to hit all the bases on that. So please don't ever take it as accusatory from me. It just seems as the same instant as the fire from God. Right, but that's also why I pointed out in the Revelation where Satan will do it again. So the idea here is that, oh, I see what you're saying. Because of the fire, the guy thought was from God, and then he says God takes away here. I see what you're saying. Okay, so the difference here, though, is that Job does not know that Satan is involved. He does not know that Satan is involved with this. from Job's perspective, God is just allowing all of this to happen. So his servant's going to say fire came down from God, and Job is going to say that God has given and God has taken away. The interesting thing is that both could technically still be said as true because God allows them. God allows it for good, Satan does it for evil. So even though my point about the fire from God up there is that it's not actually from God, it's just reported as that, Job has a better understanding of God than his servant did because he understands the sovereignty of God here. That's more important to point out. But I get what you're saying there. Were camels used as pack animals then as now? Yeah, they've always been. Always been. Horses don't hold up in the desert very well. That's why he had a lot of camels. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next chapter then. All right. Just a reminder, hey, I'm going to point this out. This nice little new sign was made for me by my friend Jeremiah. He's also known as Beardy the Pirate. If you have TikTok, he's on there. I think he's also on Instagram. But yeah, Beardy the Pirate, he's a good friend of mine, and he made this little sign for me just to replace my old handwritten one. But anyway, let's get started on chapter 2. So for those of you just joining us, we are doing a Bible study. I am not Dinks the Puppet. I am his traveling companion. He does the videos, I do the lives, and works out better for both of us. We are in Job chapter 2, reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to follow along or grab your own Bible. Here we go. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the I Am, and Satan also came among them to present himself before the I Am. And the I Am said to Satan, "From where have you come?" And Satan answered the I Am and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it." And the I Am said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil?" So this is very similar to what just happened in chapter 1. So Satan's been proven wrong so far. He thought that, take away his stuff and he'll curse you. Well, Job didn't curse him. So when the angels are called to give account again, Satan's still prowling around looking for whom he may devour, and God's saying, "Have you found anyone to devour yet?" Yep, you haven't, right? What about Job? Job's still down there. You didn't devour him? And so the devil doesn't say, "Oh, I give up." No. So he still holds fast his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without reason. So here's an interesting thing. You incited me against him to destroy him without reason. What he's saying is the devil is not saying the devil made me do it. What he's saying is how can I put this? Your cause of looking for someone to devour caused me to allow you to do what you did. So again, concrete language, there's not a lot of more metaphorical language that can be used there. Okay? Then Satan answered the I Am and said, "Skin for skin. All that a man has he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face." And the I Am said to Satan, "Behold, he is in your hand, only spare his life." Okay? So this means that the devil cannot kill you unless God allows it. How wonderful, because believe me, if the devil could kill us, he would kill every single one of us the moment we give, well, probably just immediately. He'd probably kill the whole human race if he was allowed to. So what's going on here? God saying, okay, fine. You think that making him sick, you thinking making him miserable is going to break his faith? All right, fine, but you're not allowed to kill him. God's making a point for the rest of us. Here we go. So Satan went out from the presence of the I Am and struck Job with loathsome sores from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. What's interesting is that I hear a lot of people use this for prayer. God, restore them from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. But yet, But yet, it's not the context of that phrase. It's talking about a negative thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to pray about it, but it's interesting that people will pull that and use it. And he took a piece of pottery, broken pottery, with which to scrape himself while he sat in the ashes. Okay, so sitting in ashes is another part of mourning. So yes, he tore his clothes, but he also would throw ashes on his head and sit in a pile of ashes. He is in mourning. This was their practice of grieving everything they lost. So taking a shard of broken pottery and scraping off the boils, okay, the whole idea here is that he has nothing to his name, and now that he's sick, he's picking at these itching scabs, just trying to peel them off to get some relief, and all he has to do that with is some broken pottery. That's where he is with his life right now. But you think that's the end of it? No, that's not the end of it. Guess what? He's got one. Okay, ladies, I want to tell you, the best thing you can do is not be Job's wife, please. I think you'll agree. Then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." What a wonderful supporting wife. But he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil?" Now, keep in mind, the word evil here, okay, is also synonymous with the word disaster, okay? So evil as in evil from our eyes, an evil experience, not that God produces evil. That's why disaster is also an accurate translation. So shall we only receive good from God, and shall we not receive disaster? God allows bad things to happen to you. It is true, and we should receive it. Why? Because all things work to the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose, right? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Okay? So the cherry on the top after losing everything is a wife that just says, "You should curse God and die." She was actually saying what Satan wanted to happen. Pretty astounding, huh? And you know, so why did Satan not take his wife? Because she was going to help him. That's at least one of the jokes anyway. All right, let's see here. Now we get into the portion of Job's friends, but before we get into that, any questions on what's above in Job chapter 2? Any questions on Job chapter 2? Turning and seeing you study Job is an encouraging confirmation to my prayer time this morning. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Imagine God allowed Satan to destroy everything good he had going for him, but left his wife alone. Imagine the horrible she had to be for Satan to be like, "Yeah, you can stay." Yep, exactly. Could you explain verse 9 again with his wife? Just trying to take notes. Okay, so verse 9. All right, let's go ahead and go with this. So verse 9, his wife comes to him after they've lost everything. They've lost all of their wealth. He's lost all of his kids. Okay, and now he's lost his health. Okay, just sitting there in a pile of ashes with ripped up clothes, picking at his scabs with broken pottery. Okay, that's where he is. So his wife comes up to him and says, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." So she is absolutely blaming God here. She's blaming God. She's saying, "This God is not good." That's what she's saying. God is not good. She could write a book the atheist would read. Absolutely. God is not good. Now, so his response, Job's response to her, is correcting her, saying, "No, you're wrong. You are wrong." He says to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women would speak." It's like, stop being a foolish woman. Stop acting like them. Stop talking like them. Shall we receive good from God and not receive evil or disaster? Okay, so things that are blessings and things that are terrible to endure, we need to receive both from him because they're from him, and all things work to the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Nothing he said was sinful right here. Thank you for doing this study, and I'm studying Job on my own. This was so helpful. Oh, well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Do you this is the God and the devil still have this happen, or was Job the only exception? We don't really know. We're not given a lot of pictures into heaven, and most of what we see are not interactions. There's only, I think, 2 interactions that are actually recorded in the Bible. Of what's going on in heaven. We have this one here, and then we have the one in Isaiah, or not Isaiah, I keep saying Isaiah, in Jeremiah, where it talks about the lying spirit being sent forth. So it's kind of hard to tell, whether or not they still do this type of thing. We could assume that's possible, but it depends on your view. So some people believe that the devil can't come before God because he fell from heaven. Well, then how would this work, So clearly he still can come before God when summoned, when called. And so does he still give an account of what's going on? Well, we are told that he does accuse the brethren day and night, that he's constantly accusing us. So the implication is, yeah, this could still absolutely be happening. But we're not given a definitive answer that it happens exactly like this or not. Certainly, I do not want to be the subject of a wager between God and the devil. I definitely don't. I thought God doesn't test us with evil. He doesn't, but he allows you to be tested. There's a difference. God does not throw evil at you. He has no evil to throw at you. But he will allow disaster to come upon you to test you, yes. The word tribulation does not mean wrath. The church will go through the tribulation because tribulation means test. It's a refining fire. By the end of all things, you will have gone through some terrible crap, but what's left is the beautiful, precious stones of your faith. It's all metaphorical, but God is forming you into who he wants you to be, trialed by fire, tested by fire, purified by fire. That's the whole idea. So God does not throw evil at you, but he will allow you to be tested by the evil that's here. Satan has a purpose on this earth. That's why God hasn't thrown him into the lake of fire yet. Not only does there need to be a choice for you to choose God, but there also has to be some things that will temper you into what you need to be. Look at it this way. Gideon. Okay, I always like to bring back to Gideon on this topic. Gideon was called a mighty man of valor, even though he was being cowardly when God approached him. And so God does not call you based off of what you are now. He calls you based off of what he's going to turn you into. But if Gideon had never gone to battle, a terrible experience, believe me, if you've never been in combat, you have no idea how terrible it is. Okay, but if he had never gone through that terrible experience, he never would have become a mighty man of valor. Same thing with us. So God does not throw evil at us, but he does allow evil to come at us, to tempt us, to test us, to try us, to purify us into who we are in the faith. Okay? So hopefully that helps. All right, let's go ahead and finish out this, because now we're going to get into his friends. All right. Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that had come upon them, they came each from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Naamathite. They made an appointment together and to come to show him sympathy and comfort him. That's what was their intention. They do a terrible job of it, by the way. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him, and they raised their voices and wept. And they tore their robes, okay, so they're going to mourn with him, and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven, threw them up in the sky, dust fell on their heads, okay. And they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights. Doesn't mean they didn't get up to use the restroom or eat or anything. It's just they stayed with him 7 days and 7 nights. No one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. They were just there for him. This is the best his friends get. From here, it's all downward, okay? But they did come to comfort him, all right? Now, I always love this joke. Bildad the Shuhite. Who's the shortest man in the Bible? Bildad, the shoe height. All right. Yeah. Okay. He's the height of a shoe. Yeah. That's a terrible dad joke, I know, but I had to give you that one. All right. So, any questions about this little portion right here? Okay. Let's see here. Bible study and dad jokes. Always a good combo. Definitely, definitely. All right, so let's go ahead and move along then, shall we? All right, so now Job laments his birth. Now, there are portions where his friends are going to talk to him, but first we get Job's lament. So a lament is basically, here's the sad things that are going on. Woe is me, you know, like I want everyone to know about every bad thing that's going on. That's a lament, you know. And so it's his way of expressing himself. And so then Job's friends are going to comment in response to his own lamentation, okay? So the book of Lamentations are the laments of Jeremiah. So this is Job's lamentation right here, okay? After this, Job opened his mouth. Okay, after 7 days, his friends sat with him. They comforted him as best they could and cursed the day of his birth. Now, he's not cursing God. He's just basically saying, I wish I was never born, basically. Okay, so Job said, let the day perish on which I was born, and the night that said, a man is conceived. Now, what's interesting here is if you've ever heard the silly idea that it's pagan to recognize the day of your birth, the Bible recognizes the day of your birth all the time, and here it is too. It's like, let my birthday be forgotten is basically what he's saying right here. Okay? But anyway, a man is conceived. So he's saying, not only the day of my birth, let me have never even been started. Let my life never have existed. Okay? So conceived here is not the same way we use it. We say the life begins at conception. That's not what he's saying here. He's saying a man is created. Most of the time, even though we agree that life begins at conception, the start of a person's life we typically think of as their birth. And so that's what, again, a concrete language, that's what he's saying here, okay? Let that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, nor light shine upon it. He wants his birthday to be a day of mourning for the whole world. Let everybody be sad on that day. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it. Let clouds dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. Have you ever felt like that? You're just so brokenhearted and saddened and kind of angry that you wish everything terrible was just true. You know, just like, I wish I was just never born, you know, type of idea. That's what's going on. That night, let thick darkness seize it. Let it not rejoice among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. So it's like, let this be a day to be forgotten. Let it be a day of everything bad. Nobody should ever celebrate anything on the day I was born. Behold, let that night be barren. Let no joyful cry enter it. Let those who curse it curse the day. All right, now we're going to get into some interesting things that I'll have to talk about to some length. But again, his whole idea is woe is me, pity me. Rightfully so. I'd feel the same way and probably say something similar. But in all this, he's still not cursing God. He's cursing himself. Okay? Now, let those who curse it curse the day who are ready to rouse up Leviathan. We'll get back to Leviathan when we get a description of him, okay? But hold on to that one. Let the stars of its dawn be dark. Let it hope for light, but have none, nor see the eyelids of the morning. Okay? Because it did not shut the doors of my mother's womb, nor hide my troubles from me. Oh, I wish I'd never been born. He's very dramatic about this. Why did I not die at birth, come out from my womb and expire? Why did the knees receive me, or why the breasts that I should nurse? So why didn't I just die as a baby, For then I would have lain down and been quiet. I would have slept, and then I would be at rest with kings and counselors of the earth who rebuilt ruins for themselves, or with princes who had gold, or who filled their houses with silver. He'd be like, I would be resting with all the great men of the earth if I was just dead. Or why was I not as a hidden, stillborn child, as infants who never see the light? There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There the prisoners are at ease together. They hear not the voice of the taskmaster. The small and the great are there, and the slave is free from his master. Death is the great freedom, that is true, from the trials of this life. Why is light given to him who is in misery, and life to the bitter in soul, who long for death, but it comes not, and dig for it more than for hidden treasures, who rejoice exceedingly, and are glad when they find the grave? Why is light given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? For my sighing comes instead of my bread. So instead of food, I'm just sighing, like torture comes like food. And my groanings are poured out like water, for the thing that I fear comes upon me, and what I dread befalls me. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, but trouble comes. All right, so any questions on chapter 3? Questions on chapter 3?
I can't do it because I don't have the App Store. Let me just.
I don't know what to do because it's just loading now.
Yeah, because it won't work without updating it, and I can't update it because I don't have the App Store.
Mm-hmm. Questions still on chapter 3? Why is light given to him who is in misery? That sounds like there could be more to talk about. All right, let's find out what you're talking about here. Hold on. There's nothing I can do. You have to wait until mommy gets it, or use your phone. Okay, so why is light given to those in misery? Okay, so let's scroll down to that. There it is. So your question is, why is light given to him who is in misery, and life to the bitter in soul? So the idea is the light of coming into this world. Again, he's talking about regretting that he was ever born. So he wished he had not even seen the light of day. That's like, so why was I born if just bad things are going to happen? Why did this have to me? Why did I even have to exist if this was just bad things for me? He's completely forgetting everything God has blessed him with. He's not cursing God yet, but he is saying, like, all these things have been taken away from me. My life is terrible. Why did I even see the light of day? That's kind of the idea there. Yeah. Is Job depressed throughout chapter 3? Job is depressed throughout the rest of the book until the very end. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go on to chapter 4, shall we? All right. So now, after Job has given his lament, notice that Job did not blame God, but he also didn't blame himself. He's just saying, I wish I hadn't been born. So this is going to, the next few chapters and chapters and chapters are going to be the responses of his 3 friends. You know, here's what we think because we sat with you for 7 days. Okay? And if you're going to be a good friend, don't be one of Job's friends. All right? I'm just preface it by saying that. But for those of you just joining us, we are doing a Bible study. I am not Dinks the Puppet. I am his traveling companion. He does the videos. I do the lives. Works out better for both of us. We're in Job chapter 4, reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to follow along or grab your own Bible. So now, Eliphaz speaks, the innocent prosper. Okay, this is telling you about, basically, this right here is the translators of the English Standard Version telling you what his overall point is. This is the point that Eliphaz is going to make, okay? That the innocent prosper. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, if one ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? Yet who can keep from speaking? So he's like, will you hear me out? But I can't even keep myself from speaking. I have to say something to you. Okay, that's what he's saying here. Behold, you have instructed many, and you have strengthened the hands of the weak. You've been a very helpful guy. Your words have upheld him who was stumbling, and you have made firm the feeble knees. But now it has come to you, and you are impatient. It touches you, and you are dismayed. Is not your fear of God your confidence, and the integrity of your ways your hope? So what he's saying here is all these bad things have happened to you, and now you're impatient. You're like you're just immediately wanting to die instead of waiting to see the purpose of it. So far, he's not saying anything bad, but now then he goes into this. He says, "Is not your fear of God your confidence?" So he's saying the confidence of your faith, the thing that keeps you going, isn't that the fear of your God? You know, basically, why are you so quick to give up? Where's your confidence that you had? And the integrity of your ways, your hope. You're hoping that God notices you by your integrity. Why are you giving up on that? Remember, who that was innocent ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? Now, please don't ever quote the scripture and say this is what God said. No, this is wrong. This is absolutely 1000% wrong. All of Job's friends, whatever they say, they're going to have some right things, but overall they're wrong, and God's going to make that point to them. In fact, God would have taken their life if Job hadn't prayed for them at the end. We'll get there. But this is wrong. He's saying the innocent don't perish. He's implying that Job is not innocent, that Job is getting what he deserves. But that is absolutely wrong. Are we going to say that every baby who's ever been aborted deserved it? I don't think so. This guy's an idiot. Anyway, moving along. As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. See, he's implying, you brought this upon yourself, Job. You reap what you sow. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, the teeth of the young lions are broken. So, like strong and fierce and roaring lions can't stand up to God. Neither can you, Job. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Yeah, no one can stand up to God. Now a word was brought to me stealthily, my ear received the whisper of it, amid thoughts from visions of the night. When deep sleep falls on men, dread came upon me, and trembling which made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice. Can mortal man be in the right before God? Can a man be pure before his Maker? Even in his servants he puts no trust, and his angels he charges with error. So, okay, what's going on here? So apparently some kind of spirit came before this friend of Job and asked him this question. So this is very likely Satan coming and appearing to Job's friend. Because look, he questions, he offers a question to him, just as he offered a question to Eve. He didn't make an accusation to Eve. Did God really say that? God knows you will not die. He's questioning God. So here, can a mortal man be right before God? Can Job really be going through this if he was righteous? Can a man be pure before his Maker? Can you really stand before God blameless and pure? Is that even possible? And of course, we know all things are possible for God, right? But Satan is bringing doubt to his friends, okay? So Job has been attacked financially, physically. He's been attacked with his health, and now he's being attacked socially with his friends and his emotions, just completely being brought down, all right? But then he says, even his servants, he puts no trust. In his angels, he charges with error. He's saying, even the angels get accused by God for their wrongdoing. Clearly, you did something wrong, Job. How much more those who dwell in the house of clay? How much more humans? If angels can be called out for being wrong, how much more you, Job? Because you're just a human whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed like a moth. You can easily die. You're a fragile little clay monster, and you deserve everything that came to you. Between morning and evening, they are beaten to pieces. They perish forever without anyone regarding it. In a physical sense, humans are very fragile, and we disappear without any memory of us. Do you know of everyone who lived 2,000 years ago? No, nobody has a clue. We only know of a handful of them, right? Is not their tent cord plucked up with them? Do they not die? Is that without wisdom? So it's saying, is not their tent cord plucked up with them? Basically saying, any memory that you were ever there disappears with you. It's like, you're a fragile person. You're going to die. How much more is it obvious that you did something to deserve this? If God calls out his angels, you clearly did something wrong, Job. That's his whole point here. All right. So, any questions on Job chapter 4, the words of Eliphaz? Words of Eliphaz. Any questions? Say, Satan, the word will bring doubt, but God is, and I said what I said, God. Absolutely. Absolutely. But any questions on chapter 4 before we move on? My back is sore. Do you T? Revisit verse 17. Okay, sure. So, can mortal man be right before God? Can man be pure before his Maker? So we have a B here for before, more than, or twice in this verse. Okay, so it's saying, can a man be in the right more than God or before God? So what he's saying is, all of this is evidence that God is angry with you. You can't be right if it's clear that God is angry with you. That's what he's saying. And then, can a man be pure more than his Maker or before his Maker? So when it says before, it's not saying it. The question is he saying that you're standing in that place before him, or is he saying he's claiming that you're more than God? Either way, he's bringing an accusation to Job, saying, you can't stand in his presence as pure, or he's saying you're not more pure than God, and God has already called you out by the disasters. Either way, he's making the same point, however you translate it. I think his friend was going along with what Satan convinced him of. Of course, yeah, and I think that's the fascinating thing. When we go up here in verse 12 and down, it says, "A spirit glided past my face, the hair of my flesh stood up." You know, have you ever had those goosebumps when you came across something spooky spiritual? That's what he's talking about. And so this being came to him and said this. I heard a voice say this. So yeah, he had a visit from Satan. Absolutely, he did. Most people miss that. Newton is sleeping. We're going to let him sleep for now. All right, let's go on to the next chapter, shall we? All right. For those of you just joining us, no, I'm not Dinks the Puppet. We are doing a Bible study. I am Dinks' traveling companion. He does the videos. I do the lives. Works out better for both of us. We're in Job chapter 5, reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to grab your own Bible or follow along. Now, this is still the same friend talking. He has a lot to say, okay? That's why there's so many chapters to Job, because his friends are very poetic and long-winded. All right, here we go. Call now. Is there anyone who answer you? To which of the holy ones will you turn? She's saying, go ahead, call out to your God. Let's see if you are righteous, Job, because I know you're evil. That's basically what he's saying here. Will God answer you? Probably not, because you're evil. You deserve this. Which one of the angels are you going to turn to? Which one? Surely vexation kills the fool, and jealousy slays the simple. I have seen the fool take root, but suddenly I cursed his dwelling. His children are far from safety. They are crushed in the gate, and there is no one to deliver them. So he's basically recapping for him. Look at what happened, Job. Look at what happened. The hungry eat his harvest, and he takes it even out of the thorns, and the thirsty pant after his wells. For affliction does not come from the dust, nor does trouble sprout from the ground. It doesn't come out of nowhere, Job. But man is born to trouble as the sparks fly upward. So you might have heard as the sparks fly upward. The idea is it's inevitable. Sparks go up. Now, can sparks go down? Yes, they can. But generally from their perspective, they would only usually see sparks, because metal things were not very common back then. Most of the sparks they would see would be embers from a fire. So those always go upward. So as inevitable as embers from a fire fly up, that popping when that little spark goes up from a fire, that's a man being born to trouble. It's like, man deserves his trouble just as surely as little embers go up from fire, Job. That's what he's saying there. As for me, he's still talking, I would seek God. It's like, if this was me, I'd be going after God. Yeah, I would. And to God would I commit my cause. So he's implying that Job hasn't. Saying, I would be repenting, Job, if it was me. I'd be going after God to say, hey, I'm sorry for all the things I did, whatever caused this. Who does great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number? He gives rain on the earth and sends waters on the fields. Yeah, he's saying good things about God. God is gracious. God is a good God. He's agreeing with that. He sets on high those who are lowly, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He frustrates the devices of the crafty, so that their hands achieve no success. He does those things. God is just. God is gracious. God is merciful. God provides. He's saying accurate things here. And this is the thing with people who are not of God. They will get some things right, but then inevitably their conclusion is wrong. And that's what's going to happen here. He catches the wise in their own craftiness, and schemes of the wily are brought to a quick end. So now he's starting to imply again, Job, what did you do that was crafty? Come on, let's be honest. Come on, Job. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope at noonday as in the night. But he saves the needy from the sword of their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts their mouth. Okay? Behold, blessed is the one whom God reproves. Therefore, despise not the discipline of the Almighty. So, God does reprove us, and it is a blessing from us. But again, what he's saying, this is not wrong, but his conclusion is wrong. He's telling Job, don't despise the discipline of the Almighty. But Job's point is he did nothing wrong to deserve this. So his friend doesn't believe him. That's the idea here. For he wounds, but he binds up. He shatters, but his hands heal. He will deliver you from 6 troubles. In 7 no evil shall touch you. This is a common thing where you'll see this occasionally where it's mentioned 6 and then a 7th. That's a poetic form. There are different poetic forms for Hebrew poetry, and Job is a lot of Hebrew poetry in there. And so this is one of the things where say 6 and then a 7th. That's just something they developed over time. In famine, he will redeem you from death, and in war from the power of the sword. God's able to do all these great things, Job. You shall be hidden from the lash of the tongue, and you shall not fear destruction when it comes. At destruction and famine you shall laugh. God can keep you safe from all these things. The implication is that God didn't allow it to come. That's what he's implying. And shall not fear the beasts of the earth, for you shall be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with you, and shall know that your tent is at peace, and you shall inspect your fold and miss nothing. Like, you can get everything back, Job. You can have a happy life. You can have your best life now. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. You shall know also that your offspring shall be many, and your descendants as the grass of the earth. You shall come to your grave in a ripe old age, like a sheaf gathered up in its season. Behold, this we have searched out. It is true. Hear and know of it for your good. It's like, you can be restored, Job. Just admit that you deserve this. That this is the discipline of the Almighty. Just admit you were wrong, Job, and God will restore you. Now, what's interesting is God does restore him, but not because Job admits his wrong. Right? So, any questions on this chapter, chapter 5? But what's wrong with just apologizing? Well, there's nothing wrong with apologizing, but then you're not being accurate. That's the point here. So let's say if I walked up and slapped you in the face, would you apologize to me? No, because out of nowhere, I just came up and slapped you. So Job doesn't feel he owes God an apology because he literally didn't do anything wrong, and God does confirm this. He absolutely will confirm this at the end of the book. So there's nothing wrong with apologizing, but the whole point is if he admitted he was wrong, we would miss the point of what's going on. Let's see here. Help with 5:17. All right, let's look at 17. Okay, so keep in mind, he's not saying anything incorrect, but he is correct in his assumption. So it says, behold, blessed is the one whom God reproves. That's true. Therefore, despise not the discipline of the Almighty. This is a true statement. The problem is it's not accurately being applied to Job. Job does not deserve the discipline. This is his implication is that all of this is deserved because Job did something wrong. So if you deserve your discipline, yes, then God is blessing you by reproving you. God is blessing you by correcting you, by chastening you. The Bible even says God chastens those whom he loves. That's true. But if you did nothing wrong, it's not discipline. That's the problem. So it's not that what he's saying is wrong here. It's saying that he's wrong in thinking that Job did something wrong to earn it. Okay? Exactly, Joanna. You got it. All right. Let's go on to the next chapter, shall we? All right. All right, for those of you just joining us, we are doing a Bible study. I am not Dinks the Puppet. I am his traveling companion. He does the videos. I do the lives. Works out better for both of us. We're in Job chapter 6, reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to follow along or grab your own Bible. Here we go. Now, this is Job's reply to his first friend. So this is why Job has so many chapters. You have a very short couple chapters with narrative, and then you have Job, his friend, Job, his other friend, Job, his other friend, Job, the younger friend, and then Job, and then God, and then Job, and then God. You know, so it just goes back and forth conversation here, and it's all poetic, right? Then, Job's reply, the whole gist of it is, my complaint is just. So the first one, his friend says, the innocent don't suffer. He's like, you aren't innocent because you're suffering. And so Job is saying, I haven't done anything wrong. That's the gist. I did nothing wrong is what the gist of his reply is going to be. Then Job answered and said, oh, that my vexation were weighed, and all my calamity laid in the balances. If only everything happening was properly evaluated. That's what he's saying. I wish everything could be properly evaluated, because you can't evaluate it from where you are. For then it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words have been rash. It's like, I am speaking rashly because this is such a terrible thing to go through. For the arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. He knows that God is allowing all this, but he's not cursing God. Does the wild donkey bray when he has grass, or the ox low over his fodder? So he's saying, I am making noise because I lost everything. He's telling you the purpose of his complaints. Can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste of the juice of the mallow? Saying, there's evidence here that I am speaking because I have nothing, just as much as you taste something when you put salt on it. Okay? This is just the inevitable conclusion of what's coming out. This is why I'm weeping. This is why I'm crying, because of what happened to me. My appetite refuses to touch them. They are as food that is loathsome to me. I can't even enjoy anything right now because of what I'm going through. Okay? Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would fulfill my hope. And what is that? That it would please God to crush me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Oh, that God would take my life, is what Job is saying. It would really fulfill my hope if he would just take my life now. This is just too much to bear. This would be my comfort. I would exult in pain unsparing. For I have not denied the words of the Holy One. He has not ever called God a liar. Nope. What is my strength that I should wait? And what is my end that I should be patient? Is my strength the strength of stones, or my flesh bronze? Have I any help in me when resource is driven from me? My strength is not my internal strength. I have no internal strength here, guys. None. He who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. My brothers are treacherous as a torrent bed, as terrestrial streams that pass away, which are dark with ice, and where the snow hides itself. You are pointless water, my friends. You are of no help to me. That's what he's saying. When they melt, they disappear. When it is hot, they vanish from their place. The caravans turn aside from their course, and they go up into the waste and perish. Even the caravans don't stop to help me. The caravans of Timnah look, the travelers of Sheba hope. They are ashamed because they were confident. They came there and are disappointed. Why? Because Job lost everything. They couldn't trade with him anymore. But instead of helping him, they just walked away, went somewhere else. For you have now become nothing. You see my calamity and are afraid. Have I said, make me a gift? I didn't ask anything of you. Why are you afraid of what happened to me? Or from your wealth offer a bribe for me, or deliver me from the adversity's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the ruthless. Saying, I didn't ask you for anything, and you haven't offered me anything. You're a terrible friend, is what he's saying. Teach me, and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone astray. It's like, I have done nothing wrong. If you can prove it, prove it. How forceful are upright words? But what does reproof from you reprove? It's like, you're reproving me for nothing. You have nothing to reprove. You have nothing to correct. So what does correction from you correct? There's nothing to correct. It's pointless. Do you think that you can reprove words? Do you think you can just correct my words? Because all I have is words. I haven't done anything wrong to correct. When the speech of a despairing man is wind, it's like, I'm just expelling air. All I'm doing is speaking. I haven't done anything wrong. You would even cast lots over the fatherless and bargain for your friend? But now be pleased to look at me, for I will not lie to your face. Please turn, let no injustice be done. Turn now, my vindication is at stake. Is there any injustice on my tongue? Can my palate discern the cause of calamity? It's like, nothing. I haven't done anything wrong. That's the whole point of this entire chapter. Just didn't do anything wrong, and your words are pointless, and you're a bad friend. That's what he's saying to him. All right. Any questions on Job chapter 6 then? Job chapter 6. Okay. Okay, don't see any questions popping up. It's pretty straightforward, right? All right. Let's go ahead and continue. All right, for those of you just joining us, we are doing a Bible study. I'm not Dinks the Puppet. I am his traveling companion. He does the videos, I do the lives. Works the best for both of us. We're in Job chapter 7, reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to follow along or grab your own Bible. But yes, I saw that. Verse 27, casting lots. Yeah, let's reference that. I thought that might bring up a question. So you would even cast lots over the fatherless and bargain over your friend. He is actually bringing up accusation against his friends. So casting lots is like throwing dice. You would gamble over the fatherless. You would gamble over orphans, and you would bargain over your friend. It's like, you're more evil than me. You do despicable things. Why do you think I'm at cause for this? That I'm at fault? That's kind of the idea there. All right, but anyway, chapter 7. Here we go. All right, so now Job is still responding to his friend. My life has no hope. That's the point of this portion. Has not man a hard service on earth? And are not his days like the days of a hired hand? Like a slave who longs for the shadow, and like a hired hand who looks for his wages? So I am allotted months of emptiness, and nights of misery are appointed to me. It's like, so this goes right in line with all of Ecclesiastes. Life is meaningless. It is so short and it's pointless. That's kind of the point here. It's like, my life is as short as a person who works for me. Eventually, one day they'll be done working for me, and who's going to remember him? That's kind of the idea here. Okay? When I lie down and I say, when shall I rise? But the night is long, for I am full of tossing till the dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and dirt. My skin hardens, then breaks out afresh. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle and come to their end without hope. Okay? He's like, my life is in utter ruins and it's disaster. I can't even sleep. I got worms in my clothes and I've got dirt in my clothes. My skin is breaking out. Just like, and my days are just going by quickly. Just, I might as well just die. You know. Remember that my life is a breath. My eye will never again see good. Being dramatic here. The eye of him who sees me will behold me no more. While your eyes are on me, I shall be gone. It's like I'm about to die, clearly. As the a cloud fades and vanishes, so he who goes down to Sheol does not come up. It's like and once I die, I'm not coming back. And he's talking about in a physical form. And he does say something later. We'll get to that. Something very interesting later. He returns no more to his house, nor does his place know him anymore. This is right along the lines with Ecclesiastes. Vanity, vanity, the world is vanity. There's no point to anything. When it says, Ecclesiastes says the dead know nothing, he's talking about from the perspective of a dead body, and that's what he's saying here. From the perspective of the physical, I can't go back to my house if I'm dead. Inevitably I'm going to die. Therefore, I will not restrain my mouth. Because I'm about to die, I'm going to say what needs to be said. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I the sea or a sea monster that you set a guard over me? When I say my bed will comfort me, my couch will ease my complaint, then you scare me with dreams and terrify me with visions. Talking about that demon that came to him, to his friend, so that I would choose strangling and death rather than my bones. It's like, you talk to me about this evil spirit that comes to you, you try to scare me with it? No. Bad friend, bad. I loathe my life. I would not live forever. Leave me alone, for my days are a breath. It's like, I already have a short life. Just leave me alone. What is man that you make so much of him, and that you set your heart on him? Okay? This is often quoted as being said to God, but it's not. This is actually being said to Job's friend, so please don't ever quote this as to God. Now, there is a different portion of Scripture that says, what is man that you are mindful of him, that you even recognize us? That is to God. This is not. This is a different passage. So he's basically saying here, why do you think we are so important, my friend? The friend who's a bad friend. Why do you make so much of us being alive? Why do you set your heart on we who are alive? Why do you visit your friends, visit him every morning and test him every moment? Why are you like this? How long will you look away from me, nor leave me alone till I swallow my spit? If I sin, what do I do to you, you watcher of mankind? Let's see here. Yeah. Why have you made me your mark? Why have I become a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? For now I shall lie in the earth. You will seek me, but I shall not be. Again, this is quite often thought that Job is talking to God. And it almost sounds like he is, but the problem is there is no change from when he's talking to his friend to when he's talking to God. There's no transition here. So don't quote this as Job talking to God. He's talking to his friend, because that's why he says, why do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? This would be an admission of guilt if he was talking to God. But again, he says, I did nothing wrong. He'll say it again later. So he's basically saying, why are you assuming I'm guilty? Take away that thought, my friend. Okay? But any questions on this chapter? Chapter 7. Yeah, Job's friend really needed to hear the Sermon on the Mount. Absolutely right about that. Any questions on chapter 7? I think we're just going to do one more chapter, guys. Because I've already been on for an hour and a half. And I think 8 chapters is not bad. Yep, absolutely got that. All right, let's go ahead and... Yeah, the speck in your brother's eye and plank in your own. Yeah, that's right in line with this. So verse 7 verse 3 seems rather simple, no? Well, let's take a look at that real quick. 7:3. So I am allotted months of emptiness and nights of misery are appointed to me. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. All right, so for those of you just joining us, we are doing a Bible study. I am not Dinks the Puppet. I am his traveling companion. He does the videos. I do the lives. Works out better for both of us. We're in Job chapter 8, reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to follow along or grab your own Bible. Now we get to his second friend, Bildad the Shuhite. Okay? Shortest man in the Bible. He's the Shuhite. Anyway. Now the point of everything he's going to say is Job should repent. That's his belief. Job, you're bad. You need to be good. Okay? Admit your wrongdoing. All right, so here we go. We'll go ahead and I think he's probably 2 chapters. Let's see here. No, just 1 chapter. All right. So we'll go ahead and end it with Bildad's accusation, and the next time we'll pick it up with Job's response. All right. So then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, "How long will you say these things, and the words of your mouth be a great wind? How long are you going to keep blowing out air, Job? Pointless words. Does God pervert justice, or does the Almighty pervert the right? Saying God is just. If these bad things are happening to you, clearly you deserve it, right?" That's what he's saying. "If your children have sinned against him, he has delivered them into the hand of their transgression." He's even blaming the kids, saying your kids died because it was their fault. They did something wrong. Wow. There are still churches that teach that kind of silly stupidity. All right, anyway. "If you seek God and plead with the Almighty for mercy, if you are pure and upright, surely then he will rouse himself for you and restore your rightful habitation. Admit you are wrong, Job, and God will fix everything, right? And though your beginning was small, your latter days will be very great." He's right about that. That will happen, but not because of this. "For inquire, please, of bygone ages, and consider what the fathers have searched out. For we are but of yesterday and know nothing." Again, right in line with Ecclesiastes. It's like our whole existence is so short and meaningless. "For our days on earth are a shadow. Will they not teach you and tell you and utter words out of their understanding? Can papyrus grow where there is no marsh? Can reeds flourish where there is no water?" He's saying this is all evidence, Job. It's evidence that you're bad. Punishment doesn't come from nowhere, Job. That's what he's saying with this. "While yet in flower and not cut down, they wither before any other plant. Such are the paths of all who forget God." You must have forgotten God, Job. "The hope of the godless shall perish. His confidence is severed, and his trust is a spider's web." It's as sturdy as a spider's web is to us. "He leans against his house, but it does not stand. He lays hold of it, but it does not endure. He is a lush plant before the sun, and his shoots spread over his garden." It's talking about wicked people, okay? "His roots intertwine with the stone heap. He looks upon a house of stones. If he is destroyed from his place, then he will deny him, saying, I have never seen you. Behold, this is the joy of his way, and out of the soil others will spring. Behold, God will not reject a blameless man, nor take the hand of evildoers. He will fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouting. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the tent of the wicked will be no more. Say, Job, just repent. Admit that you did something wrong to deserve this. That's what he's saying. So, all right, any questions on chapter 8 before we wrap it up? Questions on chapter 8 before we wrap it up? No questions? Chapter 8, verses 14 through 16. Explain a little more. All right, sure. 14 through 16. Okay. So first we got to talk about who's he talking about here. Okay. If you children and for inquire of the Lord, can papyrus grow? Right. So again, he's talking about evidence of your guilt. This is all evidence of your guilt. That's the whole point here. And so the hope of the godless shall perish. That's who he's talking about, the godless here, when we get to this passage here. So it's, you wanted, what was that, 14 through 16? So the godless confidence is severed, and his trust is a spider's web. You have nothing to rely on. If you are godless, your confidence is going to be cut off. You'll have nothing to be confident about. If you're trusting in anything, it's going to be crushed as easily as a spider web is crushed. The godless leans on his house, but it does not stand. You can't even trust the house in which you live. God is going to bring disaster on you. That's the point. He lays a hold of it, but it does not endure. You can't even keep it upright yourself. That's the point. He is a lush plant before the sun, and his shoots spread over his garden, and so forth and down. So basically saying you've got nothing to rely on if you're wicked. God's going to crush everything about you. Inevitably, that's true, but it's not always true in the moment, and that's their false thinking here. Okay? All right. So any other questions on chapter 7 or anything that we've read so far? Or chapter 8, excuse me, and anything we read so far? 7 through 10. And though your beginning was very small and your latter days will be very great, I'm not sure you meant to start there because that's part of this upper portion. Inquire, please, of bygone ages and consider what the fathers have searched out. For we are but of yesterday and knowing nothing, for our days on earth are shallow. Will they not teach you and tell you to utter words of their understanding? He's basically saying, Job, you need to listen to the wisdom of the past. This is clearly evident throughout all history. This is how God does things. Now, they're wrong, but that's what they're saying. Is it true if you watch certain movies or TV shows, you're opening doors to demons to come to your house? That is a superstition that you can do without. Now, I'm not saying that you can't allow demons to come in your house, but it's not as if you watch the wrong thing and suddenly a bunch of them flood into your house. That's just ridiculous and stupid. My only demonic experiences I have ever had are when I was with somebody who was practicing demonic practices. That's the thing. So look, if you are a Christian and you watch Harry Potter, we can question whether or not you should watch Harry Potter, but that's not going to allow demons to come into your house, okay? That is a ridiculous notion. Are you saying that God can be thwarted by a movie or a TV show or a song? You're saying God can't take care of you? God can't protect you? Is that really what we want to say? I certainly don't want to say that. No. So you can allow demons and things into your house if you're involving yourself in stuff that is their practices, not just like entertainment. I'm talking about like tarot cards or any kind of divination or crystal balls or things like that, seances, Ouija boards, things like that, where you're trying to contact those spirits, where you're reaching out to them specifically, that's when you should be concerned. I had an experience when I was a kid where I woke up and I couldn't move. I couldn't even speak. All I could do is breathe. And it lasted for about, I don't know, it felt like forever, but it was probably only 30 seconds. And suddenly I was released. I called out to God in my mind and I was released. But it was when my brother was dabbling with witchcraft. So he brought in the demon not because of a movie that he watched, but because of what he was participating in. So stop freaking out about every little thing that people try to throw at you. If it sounds like superstition, it probably is. We'll just put it that way, okay? Trust your God to take care of you. Yeah, a lot of people have. And now there is a physical condition that can do that. I had a pastor friend who happened while he was pumping gas, he suddenly fell to the ground and couldn't move. But that's different because he didn't feel held down. I felt held down, like I was being pushed down and suspended. And so yes, that is a demonic action. A lot of people have had that happen to them. And so if you think back, you were probably near somebody or lived with somebody or had a friend who was dabbling in something dark in nature. Yep, sounds right, Elizabeth. Yep. Similar to zodiac signs? Well, yes and no. I mean, if you take the zodiac signs seriously, yeah, that's about the same as witchcraft because you're trying to let the universe provide you power instead of trusting in the power of your God. So, yeah, that could bring things in, but if all you're doing is reading a horoscope and then you laugh at it, I mean, I would recommend just not giving any credence to horoscopes, but that's not going to bring demons in. You're not trusting in it, It's what you put faith in that is what comes into your life. Yes, yeah, I know. And I can't talk about Leviathan until we get to that passage. That's God's response, which is towards the end. So Leviathan is mentioned once, just briefly by Job, but we're going to get to the portion where Leviathan and Behemoth are both mentioned, and those are very fascinating. If you ever wondered what happened to dinosaurs, look up Behemoth. But yeah, we'll get to that. I promise we will. And so that'll be next time. All right, so for those of you who don't know, if you want to review these Bible studies, or if you missed the next one and you were really looking forward to it, if you subscribe, then you can review these at any time. So it'll be saved in the subscription-only material, and you'll be able to review any of them that you like. It's $1 a month, and I use that money specifically for this ministry. It doesn't go to anything else. It's used for the ability to continue to do this. So if not, it's okay. You can join me for free on the lives. My lives will always be free. You have my promise on that. All right. So let me go ahead and pray for all of you. Daddy, I thank you for everyone here. I ask you, 99 cents, right. I ask for your blessing upon them, everyone here, in the name of Jesus. Whatever I've said today that's not of you, let them forget it. Whatever I've taught today that is your truth, I pray that and that alone is what they remember. In Jesus' name, and amen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. I appreciate it. And I pray God's blessing upon you, and I will see you later.